Good morning, everyone, and a special welcome to all virtual participants who are joining us online for the second day of the Global Engagement and Empowerment Forum in 2024 today. Welcome back. My name is Katarina Che, and I'm the Communications Lead at the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizens. Our first event here in Centennial Hall today will be a plenary session on enhancing university collaboration for SDG achievement. This is co-organized by Yonsei University, the University of Global Coalition, and the UN University. The session will invite leaders in higher education from Costa Rica, US, Korea, Japan on stage with us today to show us how they advance the SDGs with their work. The session will be moderated by In-han Song, Vice President of Student Affairs and Services at Yonsei University and Director of the Ban Ki-moon Center for International Cooperation at the IGE at Yonsei University. Kindly note that we have today also simultaneous sessions on global burden of disease and global health, co-organized by Yonsei University and the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation. This is taking place at Grand Ballroom A. We also have a third session, Nano and AI Technologies in Diagnosing Diseases, hosted by Yonsei's Advanced Science Institute and Institute for Basic Science in Grand Ballroom B. So I'm going to hand over now to Vice President In-han Song to introduce us to the panelists and lead us through the discussion. The stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone here and around the world. Thank you for joining us at GEEF 2024. I'm Professor In-han Song, proudly serving as the director of the Ban Ki-moon Center for International Cooperation and Vice President for Student Affairs here at Yonsei University, Seoul, Korea. Today, I'm honored to host the GEEF 2024 Global Engagement and Empowerment Forum on Sustainable Development as the director of the organizing committee, and I would like to express my gratitude to all of you for attending this plenary session titled Enhancing University Collaboration for SDG Achievement. Before we dive into the session ahead, frankly speaking, I didn't expect to see this many people in the audience at 9 a.m. early morning conference. So if you came here by mistake, that's perfectly okay. And thank you for coming. And you are more than welcome to stay because we will be engaging in a very interesting talk about universities, our life. Nonetheless, if you've chosen to be here by yourself, I'm so delighted to welcome the considerable interest in our topic today. Okay, we hope to hear from our respected leaders in academia about their policies in their universities and how they have worked toward progress on sustainable development for a better world. From here, we will explore the possibilities of collaboration among universities and how this collaboration can bring new energy to academic environment and international communities in pursuing sustainable development. Since the founding of the first model of the Western universities, the University of Bologna in Italy, it was 1088, universities have been always rooted in their respective societies and worked together with their communities on social issues. On the other hand, today's society is characterized by globalization. This means that we encounter numerous novel frontiers and a significantly expanded scope of communication compared to the past. And we are suffering from new forms of global challenges and problems, such as the climate crisis, extreme economic disparities, regional conflicts, etc. These current problems, global problems, are complex and uncertain, so they cannot be solved by one actor. These are significant issues that require collaboration among various sectors to address. So we can start with the fundamental question of what are we doing for sustainable development at universities? Should we collaborate? Why should we collaborate, and can we achieve synergy? And what questions should be addressed in collaboration? We are honored to have these four speakers with us today and to hear their experience and wisdom. In this panel, we'll be discussing how research, education, and university planning can make the world a better place, and how collaboration among universities can further promote sustainable development. Let me introduce today's great speakers in alphabetical order by last names. We have the current president of UGC, or University Global Coalition, and president of Georgia Tech, Angel Cabrera, as well as the next, hello. And we have the next president of UGC and current president of Earth University in Costa Rica, Arturo Condo. And they are joining us online as speakers for our panel. In fact, today's session is organized in cooperation with the UGC, University Global Coalition, an international organization of universities from all over the world. The UGC emphasizes the social role and social responsibility for these institutions, especially with regard to sustainable development. Our two other respected panelists on stage with me today are the president of PostTech, Sung-Gun Kim, and the director of the Institute for Advanced Study of Sustainability at United Nations University, Professor Shinobu Yamaguchi. PostTech, as you know very well, PostTech is the most innovative university in science and technology, and UN University is a world-class university leading education and research on global challenges. We have a limited time of 60 minutes today. We will ask the four speakers to present for about 10 minutes each, and then we will have a Q&A and discussion session ahead. If the audience has any questions, please give them to our staff members on the floor and write to whom you'd like to address them. And if you are online, please write them in the chat window, and I'll try to get to as many questions as possible. Now, without further ado, let's welcome our first speaker, President Angel Cabrera, president of Georgia Tech and current president of the UGC. Angel, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Professor In Han Song, for having us. And thank you to Yonsei University for being just an incredible global leader in this space. This forum is just one example of the many things that Yonsei University is doing. And I'll tell you, we need more leaders like Yonsei, not just because of the impact that you have, but because of the example that you create for others. So kudos to you, kudos to President Yoon, and kudos to your partner in this activities, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, whom I've had the pleasure of meeting years ago and admiring for what he's doing. Just in 2007, I was honored to chair a group of business school educators that and we drafted what was called and still is the Principles for Responsible Management Education, a framework that really aligned business schools from around the world with the, at the time, Millennium Development Goals, now with the SDGs, is a platform now that engages hundreds of universities from around the world. And I had the distinct honor of being able to turn in the final draft of the principles to Mr. Ban Ki-moon in 2007 at the Global Forum in Geneva. So again, I very, very much appreciate everything you're doing. So just to put it in context, Georgia Tech is a large technological university. We have just a little under 50,000 students all over, students from all over the United States and from around the world. We're a technology city, although we offer programs in business and design and liberal arts, and we have one of the largest schools of computer science anywhere in the world, with campuses everywhere. And I'm a graduate of Georgia Tech, but I am now the president for the last 5 years. And when I arrived, we went through a very expansive and inclusive process of introspection about who are we as an institution, what is our mission, what is it we should do with the incredible resources at our disposal. And out of that came our mission statement. We develop leaders who advance technology and improve the human condition. Now, once you approve that and accept that is your mission, the next immediate question is, well, if that is your mission, then what are the aspects of the human condition that required improving? And that's a very complex problem. But we're fortunate that with the framework of the Sustainable Development Goals, the world has agreed to what those goals are. So we decided that rather than reinventing the wheel, we would adopt the SDGs as our platform. Since then, we've been in a process of figuring out how to align what we teach and the programs that we teach and what we teach in the existing programs. How do I align them with the Sustainable Development Goals to make students aware of what are the challenges that we hope they will dedicate their lives to addressing, whether they go into business or they create new companies or whether they go into government or public service or academia. So we're working on that, what to teach and how to teach. But we're also working on our research and how to align our research with those questions. So we are blessed with having one of the biggest budgets of research of any university in the country. Last year alone, we brought in almost $1.5 billion in research grants. And with those resources come the responsibility of asking, is our research contributing to solving some of the big problems? We're now in the process of figuring out how to reorganize our research enterprise to do not only basic research that advances our understanding of science and technology, but very importantly, to make big bets, to try to see how what happens in our labs can help address some of the biggest challenges that we face. We do a lot of work in energy, for example, both in developing new sources of more sustainable sources of energy, but also developing technologies for carbon capture, try to bring back the carbon that we have produced, or even as long as we use fossil fuels, how do we extract as much energy from them as possible so we can use fewer, less fuel than we are. So we do a ton of research in that space. But I'll give you new areas of research that deal with other sustainable development goals. Like in the case, we've been working with the Gates Foundation, with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, to design a new toilet that doesn't require sewer infrastructure, that can be deployed in any part of the world, and that will really help avoid the death of millions of children who every year die to avoidable infectious diseases. This way of really thinking about how our research could be oriented towards addressing some of the biggest problems that we face. But what is very important is we understand that we're not alone in this, and that in fact our impact would be very limited if we try to work alone. And we've been reaching out to other like-minded universities, but also like-minded foundations and organizations that can help all of us to be much more impactful. I'll mention two. One of them, of course, it was the creation of several people on this call. Yonsei was one of the creators of this partnership, this network. Arturo Condo, my dear friend, who will be speaking right after me, is also one of the founders in Georgia Tech and George Mason University, Stony Brook University, universities in Mexico and Europe. And we gathered forces and we created this coalition knowing that for us to have all the impact that we can and we should have, we need to exchange best practices. We need to give support to one another. We need to really be in this together. So that's one that I'd be delighted to chat a little bit longer. And I invite all the universities. If your university hasn't signed up to the University Global Coalition, I really would love to invite you to be part of this. Another example that I'm very, very excited about under the leadership of Stony Brook University and in partnership with Duke and University of Washington and other universities, we have now we've sort of won a competitive process to create a sustainability campus right in New York City and on an island that is just 5 minutes across the water from Wall Street. And it's an island that used to be a military base, and we've been invited to create together a sustainability campus to teach people in sustainability, but also to showcase to the world that solutions do exist that can make a big difference. There are many businesses, Boston Consulting Group and IBM and other companies that are involved. We simply could not do this without the local government of New York City, without a network of universities, without a network of businesses that are supporting the effort, and without the work of philanthropies that are funding all of this. So these are examples of why networks are needed. The last piece that I'll just mention, and I would wrap up my intervention now, is that in addition to what we do in the area of teaching and in the area of research, the other piece that is very, very important is what we do with our own operations, our own campuses as a university. Clearly, we're not big manufacturing plants. We don't use as much energy as, or we don't have the footprint, if you will, of other organizations, but we inspire every student and everybody who sets foot on our campuses. So we've taken a big responsibility to making sure that our operations, anytime you come to Georgia Tech, you should leave better prepared and better inspired to really set up solutions in your own organizations. We're not there yet. We have a lot of work to do, but that is one of our biggest commitments. Again, thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you for organizing this event, and I can't wait to hear what my distinguished colleagues have to say as well. So back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Angel. You should come to Korea next time. Yeah, thank you, Angel, for the great leadership and the valuable insights on the role of universities in promoting sustainable development and the importance of collaboration in achieving meaningful progress on global challenges as the president of UGC. Thank you again. Now let's move on to our second speaker, President Arturo Kondo, President of Earth University in Costa Rica, and the next president of UGC. Arturo, please share your thoughts with us.
Thank you so much, Professor Song. And well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here to have this conversation with colleagues like our distinguished panelists. Thank you so much, Angel, for being here. You know, we've been partners in crime in a few efforts, and this is one that means a lot to Earth University and to me personally. Let me start where President Cabrera left it in terms of, let me see, can you see the, yeah. There. Yeah. In terms of UGC, and let me take it a step further. So last year we made a decision to partner with the UN, in particular with HESI, the Higher Education Sustainability Initiative, to further take advantage of the connections that the United Nations system can give universities like all of ours to have a bigger impact. As President Cabrera Sangel was saying a few minutes ago, in 2019 we agreed that universities should be doing more, right? That universities should be doing more than what we many times do. Like we are very good at listing all SDGs under everything we do. Our programs, our research, our impact work, and that is great because it does show that universities have a super positive impact in society, local society, global society. But I think we also need to flip the question. I think we also need to question ourselves as university leaders, as university faculty, as university students, what should we be doing more to support this? It's great that we're doing so much. What should we be doing more? And that's part of what UGC wants to do. That's the invitation. That's the invitation. And using the UN platform and UN community, I think it's a particular opportunity that we should take advantage of. And it's something that, as President Karen was saying, we want to invite you. I would like to offer an example of both what UGC does and what Earth University does, and I'll share more about the university. But we're a small university. We're different. We are focused on food systems in the systemic way, although it sounds redundant, but from production to consumption, understanding that the systems need to change or needs to be changed in a way that is actually, that considers all this nature. And so we started within UGC a group that we're calling the SDG 2 Consortium. And UC Davis and Earth University, founding members of UGC, were the first, the founders of this initiative. We have, as you can see in this picture, 4 more universities now: McGill University in Canada, University of Sao Paulo in Brazil, Newcastle University in the UK, and University of Pretoria in South Africa, and a couple more may join. And we've been working together for a couple of years to find all those points of connection, to go beyond exchanging students, exchanging faculty. We will host in June this year here in Costa Rica a group of faculty and leaders from these universities to co-design a master's program, thinking of new ways to work towards zero hunger, towards SDG 2. And I think it's a good example of both what universities can do in our case, becoming part of a collaboration, but also when we collaborate, the kind of things we can and should be doing. I think it's more common to find common research projects, and even that is not enough, I think. There's a lot being done, but we have a critical mass of students, right? There are millions of university students around the world, and that's another dimension that I think we could be taking advantage of to promote the global agenda, to promote the SDGs. And so, just to reiterate the invitation from 2019, when we launched this initiative, now we have a few hundred members, a few dozen very involved, and others participating. Something like last week we had SDG Awareness Week, something that maybe some universities here have been part of. And if not, again, it's a good opportunity to bring the message of the global agenda, the knowledge of it, to our campuses, to our students, to our faculty, who may or may not be aware, and who can commit to do more for the agenda. Let me share a few words about Earth University itself. We are, as I mentioned, a small university based in Costa Rica. We were founded 40 years ago, so we're young. The mission since the beginning was to prepare leaders to contribute to society, but particularly focused on food systems. We have our student body composition. It's 20% from Africa, 20% from Costa Rica, the rest from Latin America. So it's a South-South a community that is really interesting to be part of and to share with, and to which, by the way, you are all very, very much invited. And let me share this, which is a synthesis of what we think is different about our academic model. We're small. Around 500 students, less than 500 students, 50% women, which in agricultural sciences and in food systems is not always the case, and it's something that we are proud of. Massively funded, 88% of students have scholarships, more than 50% on full scholarships. That allows us to have a cross section of society, which we think would help to prepare these leaders for the better, and almost 70% from rural areas. So it was very targeted since the beginning to food systems and primary food production. Clearly, challenges in rural areas are a big part of it. Now, it's experiential learning, experimental learning on 4 different dimensions that I think we today recognize are important. One is multidisciplinary work, and knowledge. The other is entrepreneurial experience, and they are students while they're here. They start companies and they are given the opportunity to develop their entrepreneurial skills. An important awareness process and sensitization process on environmental and social realities, and then finally a big focus on each student's personal growth as leaders. And it's different in the combination of things, and I think it has produced actually great results. We're small. Our network of alumni is around 3,000 people now, and there are over 70 countries around the world. But a quarter of them are entrepreneurs. Again, a very entrepreneurial drive is something we foster, and they have positions of leadership in both private sector and public sector. Just a final word on what we're seeing for the future and how we see our role as an university, but actually our role together as a community universities around the world. And this is, of course, related to food systems. And this is something you know. This is not something you don't know. But we did an introspection in 2022, very similar to what President Cabrera was sharing for Georgia Tech in 2019. And the conclusion was we need to work towards food systems, global food systems, that are viable, that are positive for people and planet. And that has a number of implications. And I love the way you describe it, Arnold, because indeed, when you start looking at these things, there are a number of things that feed into this. And we cannot do this alone, right? Georgia Tech is an incredible university, right? And it's 100 times our size, and yet it cannot do it alone either. And it is through, joining forces with universities across the globe, both in longitude and latitude, right? North, south, east, west, that we can actually come up with the innovations that we need. Not all of them are technical innovations. Some are social innovations, business model innovations. And so I think that combination would be extremely powerful. And we're starting to see it, as I shared in the work on SDG 2. As part of our introspection, very much aligned with our foundational values and with the view of the global goals. At the end of 2022, we defined this aspiration for the university going over the next 20, 30 years. And that is that by the mid of this century, with many partners, and that's the key for us. That's the key, I think, for UBC. We will have launched, promoted, prepared what we're calling a global movement of leaders. People who would change the world in terms of food systems, because the scale of the change is massive. Just to give you an idea, there are 570 million small farms in the world and 2.5 billion people, derive their livelihoods from those farms. That's massive. We need to find the leadership movement to change that. And that is also true for all the other SDGs. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here. I look forward to our conversation. And I would have loved to be there in person. It was impossible for me these days. I'm actually in the middle of 4 meetings at the university. So it's a quite pleasure and honor, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Arturo, for sharing your valuable perspectives on the intersection of education, sustainable development, and global citizenship, drawing on your experience leading Earth University. Thank you again. Next, we will hear from President Sung-Gun Kim of PostTech. First of all, congratulations on your recent inauguration as president and on your many innovative efforts. President Kim, please take the floor.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. By many accounts, it is pretty clear that we are at a crossroad of human civilization. There's a report by the World Economic Forum published 2 years ago, which shows a survey. The question is whether universities, higher education institutions, is preparing our young workforce for the future. And 96% of academics said yes, but only 41% of students said yes, and only 11% of employers agreed with that. So there's a huge gap between the what employer wants and what the academics wants to teach their students. This gap is pretty serious as the world is changing very rapidly. World is changing very rapidly because of technology advancement, and we are seeing a totally different world. Now, when you look at the list of 17 SDGs, it's a daunting task to solve these problems from one sector alone. I mean, we need a lot of sectors in the society, and we need a lot of thinkers who need to come together on the floor and discuss all these problems in an interconnected way. So every time I see this list, I really am amazed at how complex these matters are and how difficult it will be to solve these problems in real life. A few days ago, I listed what we can do in higher learning institutions toward achieving the SDGs. And there are several items here. We can incorporate SDGs into curriculum. We can align our research toward better achievement of SDGs. We can advance community engagement. We can also try a Green Campus initiative, and we can also ask students to get involved. I won't go into details for some reason that I will discuss later. From the point of view of postdoc, we've tried a few things by promoting cutting-edge research that is linked to the SDG achievement. We have very strong international collaborations, and we also try very hard for technology transfer and innovation. In terms of the collaboration between universities and also between university and outside world, there are several items like interdisciplinary collaboration, global partnership, and partnership with private sector and government, and information sharing. Now, the reason I skipped over these last 3 slides is because it's not my own voice. I've asked ChatGPT to give me the answer, to fill out the slides, and this is what it did. Which means even the AI knows what we need to do. This is nothing new. The reason we are painstakingly slow in terms of moving toward the SDGs is because we lack something, and that's what we are going to talk about this morning. So when you look into the roles of different stakeholders toward achieving SDGs, you can think about all these different players like governments, corporations, small and large businesses, press, NGOs and religious organizations, communities and families, schools, and of course, the academia. And each player can play their own game, but the specific and the most important role of academia is perhaps to come up with new ideas, the ideas to change our future world. So I thought about what kind of ideas we can come up with for a more sustainable world. And that led me to this image. This is what's called the Epcot Center in Disney World. It's called Spaceship Earth. What an attractive name. This was built in 1982 when I was a graduate student. Spaceship Earth, I mean, when you think about it, someone saw Earth as a spaceship traveling in space in the vast space of the universe. So this is a single dot, and the construction there represents the single dot in space, and we are all in there together. We are all in the same boat, and that boat is called Spaceship Earth. Now, this is not a new idea. In fact, it was the idea of Buckminster Fuller, who was an architect, inventor, designer, philosopher, systems theorist, writer, and futurist. And he's such a famous person in the 20th century America, and that magazines and postage stamps have been published in his honor. And he came up with many different ideas, like certain words, doing more with less. I mean, this is a very fundamental issue in today's world. We wanted to save energy and materials to increase its efficiency for human sustainability and survival. Now, when you actually trace the idea, the Spaceship Earth was not studied by the Epcot Center. It was not studied by Buckminster Fuller. It dates back to the 18th century thinker named Henry George. Henry George came up with this idea in his book called Progress and Poverty in 1879. So this idea, this expression, this word, have been around for 150 years with us. It predates the Eiffel Tower in Paris. I mean, it's a long idea, I mean, it's an old idea, but it's still very new in its concept. The 19th century had great thinkers like Henry George, and 20th century had great thinkers like Buckminster Fuller, who actually carried Henry George's torch into the 20th century, and that materialized in some of the construction pieces that he produced. Now the question is, do we have any creative, original, and viable ideas for the 21st century toward achieving the SDG goals? Have we lost great thinkers from our universities? Why can't we produce any more Henry Georges and Buckminster Fullers? Are we producing only activists but no thinkers? So these are the questions that I like to ask ourselves, especially those of us in academic institutions. What will happen if there is going to be at least one original thinker from each leading university in the world? I mean, wouldn't that be wonderful to have great original ideas coming from these great minds all over the world so that we can really look into the deep-rooted problems? What if their ideas are effectively disseminated to students and faculty? Will a chain reaction of ideas follow? I'm sure it will. And that's a very important thing. Our inter-university collaboration is going to be more effective then, only then. The reason why it's so slow is probably because we don't have powerful enough ideas. We don't have creative, original ideas to change the 21st century as some of our predecessors in the 19th and 20th century had. So this is something that I like to reflect upon. Well, there's some hope. We do have certain number of people with new ideas, and I'd like to give you some examples. In the area of new technology, we have someone like Nicholas Negroponte, who actually created MIT's Media Lab in 1985, 2 years after Buckminster Fuller passed away. 20 years later, he came up with a program called OLPC, short for One Laptop Per Child Initiative. The idea is to make laptop computers inexpensive enough to be distributed to underdeveloped world, like Africa. He wanted to make laptop computers so cheap that everyone can have, every child can have access to, so that there will be less gap. The divide between the developed world and the underdeveloped world, the divide between the rich and the poor will be smaller because he's going to be able to distribute this very inexpensive laptop to kids in the third world countries. I think it's a great idea. In fact, he almost succeeded in making this. He made it so that this laptop computer operates by solar energy alone, so that you don't need electricity coming from the wall. So it's a great invention, and I think people like Negroponte are still trying very hard to make the world more equitable. We see some examples of innovations from Korean universities also toward SDGs. I mean, people are trying to use rainwater for fresh water. People are trying to come up with artificially cultured meat to reduce the environmental pollution. And also people are trying very hard to use cellulose production from organic waste. So these are all great ideas. And I like to suggest that we have to have some kind of take-home message, one original thinker from each leading university of the world. I mean, it can be you, the students, or faculty. I mean, we really need new, original, creative, viable ideas. We don't need many. We only need one great thinker per university. And there are so many universities in the world. I'd like to raise also some take-home question. What will be the 21st century model for Spaceship Earth? Our predecessors in the 19th and 20th centuries struggled with these ideas. And are we struggling with these ideas anymore? And that's something that we'd like to pay our attention to. Finally, every time I think about these problems, I look up this image of Earth from Voyager 1 space probe 6 billion kilometers away as it almost moved out of the solar system 34 years ago. It was leaving the solar system, and Carl Sagan asked the NASA to turn the camera back to look at where we live. And this small dot, it's called pale blue dot. And this pale blue dot is where everything is. Every person who lived before, every person who will live after us will be living here. This is the only ground that everyone you knew, everyone you will know, will live their lives. So with that message, this pale blue dot is so precious for us to keep. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President Kim, for enlightening us on the university's role as a hub of innovation and creativity and research excellence and technological leadership, as well as its contribution to sustainable development and societal advancement. And personally, I'm so proud that he is my lifelong mentor. Okay, thank you again. And last but not least, we have Professor Yamaguchi, Director of the Institute for Advanced Study of Sustainability at the United Nations University in Tokyo, Japan. Thank you for your participating in person from Tokyo. And Professor Yamaguchi, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. And I have to confess, actually, it is always very difficult to be the last speaker because the brilliant speakers has already mentioned very important messages. And my task is really to avoid the message, but also to connect their intervention to the presentation. But by the way, the President Carabera, I really enjoyed your practical experiences and examples of connecting the people from the different disciplines, involving the student really to contribute. It's very difficult things to do at the university, so I really enjoyed. And definitely, the President Kondo, thank you for sharing this example of involving very actively the student and to make those research, the project happen, but also the implementation through your network. And Professor and President Kim, thank you very much for the very provocative questions. What can we do to really stimulate the student to make things happen in the 21st century? Okay, so as a last speaker, I hope I can entertain the audience as well as the speakers. So the United Nations, the university, my presentation will probably focus more on how those national, regional, and international network and partnership can really enhance the synergy to contribute in achieving the SDGs, different SDGs, but also in relationship in between different SDGs. So just how does it? It's not moving. Oh, yes, okay. Just quickly, our history of the United Nations University goes back to 1970s already. It was established by the UN General Assembly as an academic arm of the United Nations system. Therefore, our mission is really to connect the academia with the policymakers for the very important international agenda. And in fact, when you hear the United Nations University, you think we're the university, but in fact, we are the collection of the 13 different research institutes located in 12 different countries. And so we have a different specialization in working on a different research. topic. However, recently we did the data, some of the analysis of the data of what we do. Altogether, 13 Institute, we have about 500 researchers working on the different the important topics. But if you can see, this is the data from 2022. We have, among others, we have about 200 active projects related to the different SDGs. And as you can see, in terms of the project numbers, we do really have quite a number of the SDG 13 climate actions, but also 17, the collaboration, partnership, gender, okay, and responsible consumption, and so on. Okay, so this is a general kind of framework with what we do. However, each institute has a different focus, and my institute, Institute for the Advanced Study of Sustainability, and everybody asked me, okay, when you talk about the advanced study of sustainability, what do you do? Okay, so we cannot do everything, but we actually have 4 major areas, thematic areas of the research that we really would like to contribute with the locally oriented the solution, the working with our member state and local community. And these are the 4 thematic areas. Just quickly, one by one. The first area is the governance for the sustainable development. In fact, as you know, we are in the midpoint of the Agenda 2030. We have 6 years to go. I attended the SDG Summit last year in September at UN headquarters. It was very shocking, I think you also, to hear that our UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, has to confess we are at 15%, not 50, okay, not 50, 15% of the target, 169 target, has been successfully achieved. Okay, and then we have less than 3,000 days to really aim for the better the society and better the planet aimed by these SDGs. So I think we really believe in the localization of the SDGs. So we very much closely working with the member state and local the communities. And second area we focus on is biodiversity in society. In Japan, we have this very important concept called Satoyama and Satoumi. This means we live with the ocean, we live with the mountains. So it's more than the harmony between the human society and the nature, but we actually learn from the nature and we incorporate what they can provide to us through the seascape and landscape approaches. So now we talk a lot about nature-based solution, and I am very happy to see at the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, which took place in December 2022, this idea of social-ecological, the production, landscape, and seascape has been adopted so that in our direction of harmonizing with nature and human society has been getting more of the attention. The next part, we work with the water resource management. And particularly, we are now focusing on smart, innovative, and community-based sustainable water management because due to the increasing natural and man-made disasters, it is very important to assess what is available locally in terms of the resources, any kind of resources. So when we are hit by the natural disaster, the community can handle how to revitalize those systems. Okay, so we work in the water area, and then very importantly, innovation and education. And as you can see, because of the pandemic, this access to education, including digitalization, this gap has been they increased. But also, at the same time, we do have an opportunity. So we do have, assess the impact of the digitalization of education and how it can really promote the quality of education. So those 4 thematic areas I mentioned, it's almost like a department, but the difference between the big university and the United Nations University, because we're small, the university and research institute, we work very closely, among those different thematic area. And one of the example, we participated in the UN Transforming Education Summit in 2022. And we very much focused on role of higher education, but talking about transforming the climate education and the environment, promoting lifelong learning. So we combine the issues of climate action, okay, the issues of water, but the innovative education. Okay, so we try to contribute to the achievement of the SDGs through those international, the framework and the conferences, really to stimulate the idea of the academia, so that we can really work with policymakers to have those evidences in research to reflect in their own policies. Okay, so because of the time, I'd like to shorten my presentation, but one important role that we have at the United Nations University is really to mobilize our regional and international network. And one of the happy news, actually the President Cabrera has also mentioned about the HESI, the Higher Education and Sustainability Initiative, and he's very much involved in one of those action groups of the university, the leaders. But starting 2024, this year, the United Nations University will be co-organizing, will be serving as a co-chair with the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs, and together with the UNESCO International Institute of Higher Education. So this means the network we have in Japan, in Asian Pacific, and in the global, in the segment, we really want to promote those collaboration. Currently, we do have 6 and those the action groups: partner program, ranking rating assessment program, and education for green jobs, SDG publishing, publishers compact, university leaders, and student and youth. But we'd like to also add this one new action group called AI and Higher Education. And this is not because AI has been getting a lot of attention, because AI existed already 1560s, right? But I think it's very important to talk about the risks, particularly on ethics aspect, ethical concerns. Okay? Because I think we, the human being, has to know, what ethics needs to be incorporated in using, but also expanding the use of those technologies, including the AI. So this is the one thing we really want to collaborate. Just one last, this HESI, Higher Education Sustainability Initiatives, we have annual conferences in July at the UN and headquarters, can be participated by, that we have over 800 universities joining this the partnership. And last year, we had this important session called Impact of Digitalization and Artificial Intelligence in Higher Education. And every year, those topics are different, but we kind of consult all the membership universities and what will be the focus of this year. So I would very much promote and appreciate your ideas, especially the person Kim that asked you really to be provocative and to be innovative. Okay, so this is something the United Nations University really would like to explore further the cooperation, so that we can all work together really to at least increase from 15% of the target setting to closer to whatever we can do. Otherwise, not only our human society, but nature will be degraded. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Yamaguchi, for your thought-provoking presentation on UNU's contribution to global sustainability, as well as its commitment to advancing the SDGs through research, education, and partnership building efforts. Now that we've heard from all of our speakers, and it's time to open the floors for questions and discussion. However, unfortunately, due to the time constraint, I will take just one question from the floor. You can request a microphone if you have any questions, or if you have the questions, could you? Okay, I will choose just one question then. Okay, thank you for your great presentation. Your presentations are great, but it's from the professor's perspective. This is from student. Do you have any advice for students contributing to sustainable development, or how have students contributed to SDGs at your schools? Who would answer this question? Angel?
I'm happy to provide a perspective that the students at Georgia Tech have become the biggest agents of change. They're using the campus as their own laboratory to test the solutions. You don't have, I mean, the Sustainable Development Goals are global, but solutions can be found in locally in your city. They can be found in your own campus. So every improvement that we've done from recycling of waste to reducing food waste to improving energy efficiency, there's always been student groups behind. So they're not only just the recipients of what we do; they're true actors in the efforts that we're leading.
Yeah. Any more answers?
I would like Professor Son to add to that. So two things. One is that our students are going to be the ones who with the chance to change things, right? I mean, they are the ones in the 20s to 30s. They will see the rest of the century, right? So they are going to be the protagonists of the changes we need, or if not, of course, the victims or the witnesses of what would come. I think getting them engaged in research, many times they are, but in community work, in actual work that through universities and through other actors in society are creating even short-term impact. I think is a necessary experience for their work as leaders as they move, as they graduate, and as they have impact during their lifetimes. And so I think universities can be, and students can be actors themselves as students of these projects, of these impact projects that we need to experiment with, learn from, and of course, disseminate around the world.
Thank you. Additional answers, Professor Kim or Yamaguchi?
I've seen a list of great inventors of human civilization the last 200 years. As we move toward more present day, there's growing number of young people. So compared to the 19th century, in the 21st century, we have more young people coming up with new ideas, and it's very significant change. And I see that the young generation has this very acute sense of the world around us, and that's why I really want to ask students here and elsewhere to become more conscious and to become more attentive to the change that we are undergoing. It is not the old generations that always come up with good ideas. It's always the trials and attempts of younger generations that have changed the world so far. And I really want to encourage you to come up with that. When I say one great thinker per university, I rely on young ideas, and it's all yours.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Last,
Oh,
Professor
okay, thank you.
Yamaguchi.
Okay, just quickly. Actually, when I was a student, I really wanted to be an adult or a professional as soon as possible. But when I became a professor, I really realized how luxury it is to be a student. Because as the President Kondo has mentioned, you can be very much experimental. Okay, and as many has mentioned, that you have a really the platform that you can really collaborate. And now, world has become so small. You get to meet with people from different background, different region. And it's a campus is a place you explore the part that you really haven't aware that you have. Okay, so yes, the adults are not always the people to make a change. But then I think the younger generation, with this explorative kind of approach, that you are the one who could really promote our intergenerational achievement and outcome.
Thank you. Thank you all for your insightful answers and discussion. And 60 minutes was too short for these great leaders. And unfortunately, due to time constraints, we'll have to conclude this session here. And thank you for these key messages and presentations. I want all participants to know that these are the punchlines of this session. And I hope all of you take this message home and that message will bear fruit in the years to come. I want to express my deepest gratitude to our speakers for their valuable contributions and to all of you for active participation. As we close this session, let's take a moment to reflect on the importance of collaboration among universities in achieving sustainable development goals. Together, we have the power to drive positive changes on campus and in the world and create a better future for generations to come. Thank you once again for joining us, and I wish you all inspiring and productive remainder of the conference, GEEF 2024. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice President In Han Song and the panelists for this really enriching discussion. I don't think it's a secret that SDG 4 is key to achieving all the SDGs. And it was just really good to see how universities collaborate amongst each other and do more to advance the SDGs. What particularly struck me was what Professor Kim said, that we have the solutions, and even artificial intelligence knows that. Moving on, our next session here in Centennial Hall is on exploring Arctic environmental challenges, and we'll start at 10:50, so we have about 15 minutes left, so see you all soon.